Halloween has always been Jessica's holiday. She loves it more than Christmas or birthdays, reveling in every spooky detail. And this year, she's outdone herself. Our home is transformed, draped in cobwebs with dim, flickering lights casting shadows across walls. Friends have started to arrive, greeted by fog drifting along the ground and the eerie laughter echoing through the speakers. Jessica beams, floating from group to group, dressed as a witch, every inch of her delighting in the Halloween energy she's conjured. The Halloween party is a tradition now, a gathering that everyone in our circle looks forward to. 5 couples, the same faces every year. Costumes, drinks, and most of all, the wish game. We started it years ago as a bit of a joke, a way to keep the night interesting. Everyone writes down a wish or a challenge, a little dare for someone else to pull off during the night. Some are funny, some awkward, but it's all harmless, just a silly way to keep the night lively. As usual, the game kicks off easily enough. There are the typical dares. Kiss someone other than your partner. Tell your spookiest story. A few laughs, a couple of blushes. Nothing out of the ordinary. It's exactly the way it's always been, just silly dares to bring everyone closer. The warmth of friendship fills the room, and I feel that easy sense of comfort that only comes from people you trust, people who know you deeply. Then, somewhere along the way, someone draws a new dare, and the laughter dies abruptly. The dare is different this time. The words hang in the air, chilling the room as they're read aloud. Explore an open marriage. Swap partners. For a moment, nobody speaks. Eyes dart around the room, a mix of shock and amusement flashing on faces. There's a nervous laugh or two, as if everyone is waiting for someone to say, "Just kidding." I'm about to brush it off as a prank, just another weird dare, when Jessica, without missing a beat, smiles and says, "If it's just for tonight, I choose." Liam, my heart stutters. The room freezes, and I half expect her to laugh, to play it off as a joke. But she doesn't. She's looking at me, but it's more like she's waiting for my reaction, as if testing the boundary, pushing it just a little. Liam shifts beside me, glancing between us before he shrugs, raising his glass. He tries to laugh it off, says, "Well, maybe we should give her what she wants." It's meant to sound lighthearted, I know, but there's a seriousness in the way he looks back at her. I swallow, a sour taste building at the back of my throat. The warmth, the laughter, everything good about the evening suddenly feels gone, leaving only tension. "What the hell, Jessica?" I finally say, trying to keep my voice steady, but feeling it tremble. Jessica's smile fades, replaced by a look of irritation. She rolls her eyes, setting her drink down with a careless clink on the table. "Oh, come on, Ethan. It's just a game," she says, dismissive, her tone light, but with an edge that pricks something deep inside me. "A game?" I echo, barely able to keep my voice steady. This is way beyond a game, Jessica." The room has gone silent, our friends glancing awkwardly at one another. I can feel their discomfort, see them shrinking back, trying to fade into the shadows. Jessica, though, holds her ground, crossing her arms defiantly. "You know what, Ethan?" she says, her voice louder now, breaking through the tension. "Maybe that's your problem. You're so closed-minded. You never want to try anything new, never want to shake things up." Her gaze sharpens, a spark of anger flaring in her eyes. "For once, can you just loosen up?" I stare at her, barely recognizing the person in front of me. The woman I married, the one I thought I knew better than anyone else, is suddenly a stranger, and I feel as though I'm seeing her for the first time. My voice comes out colder than I intend. "If you're so desperate to shake things up, then maybe you should think about what you're risking here." Jessica laughs, and it's a bitter, mocking sound. "Risking what, Ethan? A life where you control every little detail? A life where I have to be the perfect wife while you pretend everything's fine?" The words cut through me, each one sharper than the last. It's like she's pulling back a curtain I didn't even know was there, revealing thoughts and resentments she's kept hidden all this time. I look around at our friends, their faces pale and uncomfortable, but no one dares to speak. No one moves to break the spell. Without thinking, I blurt out, "You think you're the only one putting in an effort here? I've done everything I can to make us happy, to make you happy. But if you want something else, if you're not satisfied with me, then maybe you should have said something sooner." Jessica's expression shifts, and for a fleeting moment, I think I see something like regret in her eyes. But it vanishes as quickly as it appeared. She shakes her head, grabbing her coat, and with one final, scathing look, she mutters, "Maybe I should have." With that, she storms out of the room, slamming the door behind her. The sound echoes through the house, filling the silence that follows. The party is over, but nobody moves, as if they're rooted to the spot. Our friends murmur awkward goodbyes, filing out one by one, leaving me standing alone in the hollow quiet, the weight of her words pressing down on me like a stone. The next morning, the house feels emptier than it ever has. Jessica is gone, and I haven't heard from her since she stormed out last night. A part of me hopes she'll come back, that we'll sit down and work through whatever it is she's holding inside. But another part, the one that feels hollow and raw, knows things have changed. A line was crossed that I can't just ignore. I go through my day, half expecting her to walk in or call. But by evening, the silence is deafening. I sit down in our living room, looking at the decorations still hanging, mocking reminders of the night before. My mind races with questions, fragments of her words replaying in my head, closed-minded, too controlling, never wanting to shake things up. It's as if every word, every accusation, is a puzzle piece I can't make fit. I start to think back over the past year. How many times has she left the house, saying she was meeting friends? How often has she come home late, brushing off my questions with a laugh and a story that never quite added up? Little things I ignored, things I trusted her on, now seem glaring. I can't shake the feeling that I've been missing something, or ignoring it. Driven by a desperate need to understand, I go to her desk. It's messy, cluttered with bills, receipts, and stray papers. I rifle through the stack, barely sure of what I'm even looking for, but needing something, anything, that might make sense of last night. That's when I find them, tucked in the back of a drawer, bank statements and credit card bills I've never seen before. I stare at the names of hotels, luxury stores, unfamiliar charges that feel like a punch to the gut. There are reservations I know nothing about, places she's been spending nights in while I stayed at home, none the wiser. I feel the blood drain from my face as a sickening realization sets in. Jessica has been living a life I knew nothing about, a life separate from the one we shared. The questions only multiply, each one hitting harder than the last. If she's been lying about this, what else is she hiding? Then another thought hits me like a cold splash of water. Our son. He's always been my world, the bond one thought I'd share with Jessica forever. But as I stand there, staring at those papers, another image flashes in my mind. Our son's face, his bright eyes, his features that suddenly, I can't shake, seem familiar. Too familiar. I brush the thought away, horrified at myself for even thinking it. But the suspicion lingers, gnawing at the edges of my mind. After finding these bills, these lies, how much more can I keep ignoring? The questions haunt me as I make a decision I never imagined I'd consider. I'll run a DNA test. It's drastic, maybe even paranoid, but I need to know, no matter how much it terrifies me. As I package the DNA test, sealing away a piece of my own soul with it, I feel the weight of a truth I'm not ready to face, a truth that could shatter everything I believed about my family. The days pass in a fog, a relentless cycle of waiting. Every time I look at my son, I feel a painful tightening in my chest, a growing fear I can't shake. But today, the waiting ends. The envelope arrives, plain and unassuming, and I hold it with trembling hands, feeling the weight of something that could break me in ways I never imagined. I sit down, my fingers brushing the edge of the seal, and take a breath. My son, playing in the next room, giggles and the sound twists something deep inside me. I think about tossing the envelope aside, convincing myself that none of this matters, that I don't need to know. But that lie is hollow now. So I tear it open, hands shaking, and read. There it is, clear as day. Probability of paternity, 0%. The words blur as my grip tightens, the paper crumpling in my hand. I sit there, numb until I hear the small footsteps coming closer. Dad! My son's voice pulls me from the spiral, and I look up to see him standing there, his wide eyes gazing at me with all the love and trust in the world. Can we play now? I force a smile, my voice shaky. Yeah, buddy. Just give me a second, all right? He nods, watching me with a seriousness that's almost painful. He seems to sense that something is wrong, but he trusts me. God, he trusts me. After he runs back into the other room, I hear the door creak open. I turn, my heart tightening as Jessica walks in, looking unbothered, as if she's just returning from a casual day out. Ethan, we need to talk, she says, her tone distant, like I'm the one who should brace himself. Talk. My voice is cold, foreign even to me. I hold up the crumpled paper, my eyes fixed on her. Did you know? Did you know all this time that he isn't mine? Jessica's face pales, but then she gives a slight, defiant shrug. I didn't think it was important, she says, and the words slice through me. You've been his father in every way that matters, haven't you? I shake my head, struggling to keep my voice steady. Important? How could this not be important? You knew he wasn't mine, Jessica. You let me love him, raise him, thinking he was... She crosses her arms, looking away. It was easier this way. What was I supposed to do, Ethan? Tear everything apart just because you betrayed me? The words leave my mouth before I can stop them, raw and aching. You let me build my life around a lie, Jessica. Around our son, no, Liam's son. The truth crashes down, heavier with each word. She takes a deep breath, her face hardening. I thought you'd understand, Ethan. I was trapped. I needed something more, something you couldn't give me. My fists clench. So you needed him? You needed to bring Liam into this house, into our lives, while you kept me blind to everything. Jessica's gaze sharpens, her mouth twisting into something almost cruel. Don't act like you're perfect. Maybe if you hadn't been so predictable, I wouldn't have felt so suffocated. I stare at her, the last fragments of my heart breaking. I would have done anything for you, Jessica. I would have given you everything. But you took that trust, our family, and threw it away like it meant nothing. She takes a step back, her arms uncrossing, and for a moment, I think I see regret in her eyes. But just as quickly, she closes off, her face unreadable. Maybe it's time we go our separate ways, she says quietly. I nod, feeling a tear slip down my cheek. Maybe it is. The house feels emptier than ever after Jessica leaves. The silence is unbearable, the weight of betrayal crushing. But there's one more piece left, one final confrontation I can't avoid. I pick up my phone and dial Liam's number, my hands still shaking from the encounter with Jessica. It rings once, twice, and then he picks up, his voice casual. Hey, Ethan, what's up, man? I can't even bring myself to greet him. We need to talk. Now. There's a pause, the casual tone gone from his voice. Sure. Is everything okay? I grip my teeth. Meet me at the bar down the street. 10 minutes? Without waiting for his response, I hang up and grab my keys, the anger building with every step. I reach the bar, my mind replaying the lies, the moments I trusted him, the nights he spent in my home with my family. By the time he arrives, my hands are clenched into fists. He walks in, looking around nervously until he spots me. Ethan, what's going on? He asks, approaching cautiously, his smile forced. I gesture to the seat across from me. Sit down. He hesitates, but finally slides into the booth, his eyes darting around. You're freaking me out. What's this about? I don't bother with pleasantries. I reach into my pocket and pull out the crumpled DNA results, shoving them across the table. Read it. He picks it up, his brow furrowing as he scans the words. His face drains of color, his mouth opening and closing as if he's struggling to find the right words. Ethan, I don't know what to say, he stammers, eyes wide. Start with the truth, I say, my voice barely above a whisper, raw with the betrayal I'm barely keeping in check. How long has this been going on, Liam? How long have you been lying to me? He looks down, his hands twisting the paper as he fumbles for words. It started a long time ago. Years, actually. I didn't think, God, Ethan, I didn't think it would go this far. I never wanted to hurt you. Hurt me? I nearly laugh, but it comes out as a bitter, choked sound. You fathered my son, Liam. You lied to me, to my face, all while you were with her. You let me raise your child. You looked me in the eyes, knowing. He winces, a flicker of guilt crossing his face. Ethan, please, you have to understand. Jessica, she told me she felt trapped, that she needed something more. We didn't plan for this to happen. It just did. Stop. My voice is cold, and he falls silent. You had years to stop this, to come clean, to tell me, but you chose to keep lying, to keep pretending. Why, Liam? Why would you do this? He swallows, his voice barely a whisper. Because I was scared. I didn't want to lose you as a friend. Some friend you turned out to be, I say, the words laced with bitterness. I push back from the table, unable to look at him for another second. You did lose me, Liam. Whatever we had, it's gone. You're nothing to me now. He reaches out, desperation in his voice. Ethan, please. I know I messed up. I wish I could take it back. I stand, looking down at him with a clarity that's been missing for too long. It's too late for that. Stay away from my son. Stay out of my life. Without waiting for a response, I turn and walk out of the bar. Each step carrying me further away from the lies, the betrayal, and the person I once thought was my best friend. Days blend together in a haze after I walk out on Liam. Every morning, every hour is filled with an ache that never seems to fade. The betrayal from my wife, my closest friend, the people I trusted most, follows me like a shadow. And at the center of it all is my son, who looks up at me with the same bright eyes, unaware of the storm that has shattered our world. I don't know how to tell him. The truth about his origins is something he's not ready to understand, and as much as it pains me, I realize that maybe he doesn't need to know it at all. He is mine, and nothing will change that. Not a DNA test, not betrayals, not resentment. He deserves for me to shield him from all this chaos. The decision to file for divorce feels like a point of no return, the final severing of everything I once believed in. The paperwork is relentless, each document mocking our broken past. But amid the exhaustion, there's a strange sense of clarity. With every signature, every line I fill out, it's like I'm shedding an old skin that no longer fits. One evening, while I'm going through the pile of documents, I hear a soft voice behind me. Dad! I turn to see my son standing there, clutching a small blanket, his eyes full of worry. Why aren't you asleep, buddy? I ask, trying to keep my voice calm. He hesitates, looking down. Are you and Mom mad at each other? His question hits like a punch to the chest. I kneel beside him, taking his hand. Your mom and we're having grown-up problems, I say carefully, forcing my voice to stay steady. But none of this is your fault, okay? You're the best thing in my life, and I'll always be here for you. He looks up at me, his small hand gripping mine tightly. Promise? I nod, feeling a tear slip down my cheek. I promise. In that moment, I realize that everything I've gone through, the lies, the betrayal, has led me to this decision. I'm ready to do whatever it takes to protect him, to give him a life filled with stability, honesty, and love. The first step is meeting Jessica with the divorce papers. I arrange for us to meet at a coffee shop, a neutral ground where we can go over the details. She arrives late, her expression a mixture of irritation and reluctance, as if this is just a petty formality. She barely glances at me before her eyes settle on the envelope in my hands. So, this is it, she says, sliding into the chair opposite me, her voice sharper than I expected. You're really going through with it? I look back at her, my voice calm but resolute. Yes, Jessica. After everything, this is the only thing that makes sense. She laughs, but there's no humor in it. You're just going to give up? Just like that? Give up? The words sting, but I hold her gaze. You gave up on us long before Halloween. You chose a separate life, one that didn't include me or the truth. She rolls her eyes, looking away as if bored. Fine, do what you want, but I'm still entitled to half of everything. A bitter smile tugs at my lips. Half? You've already taken more than I could imagine. I've gone through the finances, Jessica. I know about the hidden debts, the loans. You've left us with almost nothing. Her expression flickers, maybe a hint of fear, maybe shame. But she quickly recovers, crossing her arms defensively. I deserve something out of this, Ethan. You're not taking everything just because you're hurt. I lean forward, lowering my voice. I'm not taking everything, Jessica. I'm taking what I need to build a life for our son. For our shared son. Her gaze sharpens, a flicker of resentment flashing in her eyes. Oh, don't play the martyr, Ethan. He's just as much mine as yours. Those words hang heavily between us, a reminder of the tangled mess that used to be our family. I take a slow breath, keeping my voice steady. He needs a life that's stable, that's honest. You and Liam can do whatever you want, but not at his expense. She stares at me, and I see something fleeting, perhaps regret, but it quickly disappears, replaced by that cold determination I know all too well. Jessica sighs, reaching for the papers. She schemes through them, her fingers tapping against the table as she reads, her expression tense. Fine, Ethan, if that's what you want, but don't think I'll make this easy for you. With that, she signs, her pen scratching across the paper in cold, mechanical strokes. She closes the folder and pushes it back toward me with a final, almost defiant look. As I watch her walk away, a strange mix of grief and relief settles over me. It's the end of what was, but also the beginning of something new, something honest, peaceful, and finally, truly my own. With the divorce finalized, a strange emptiness settles over me. It's as if I've shed a weight I'd been carrying so long that I'd forgotten how it felt to be free. But now, standing alone in this new reality, I feel the sharp edge of loneliness, a quiet ache in the house that lingers in every room. Yet for the first time in months, I also feel a sense of control, a chance to start over, this time with clarity and a renewed purpose. The first step is setting things right at home. I clear out the remnants of our shared life, all the mementos of Jessica that once held meaning but now feel like ghosts of a life I barely recognize. It's not bitterness that drives me to pack these things away, but a need to reclaim this space, to turn our home into a place where my son and I can heal. One Saturday morning, I gather the last of Jessica's belongings and, as I tape up the boxes, I hear small footsteps behind me. Dad, what are you doing? My son asks, looking at the boxes with a mix of curiosity and uncertainty. I set down the tape and kneel beside him, brushing a hand through his hair. I'm making room, buddy. Just making room for us. He looks at the empty space where once stood Jessica's photos, her keepsakes, and smiles, a little unsure but trusting. His trust is what fuels me. I know he doesn't fully understand, but he senses the change, the new beginning. And I'm determined to make this new life something he can feel safe and happy in. Over the next few weeks, I work on creating a new rhythm for us, filling our days with routines that are ours alone. I redecorate his room, taking him with me to choose the colors and decorations, watching him light up as he points out posters and bedspreads. Together, we paint the walls, our hands smudged with streaks of blue, our laughter filling the empty spaces. As we settle into our new life, my son asks about his mother less and less. I know he misses her in his own way, but there's a resilience in him that amazes me. He adapts, absorbs the change, and somehow he manages to find happiness in the smallest things. A new bedtime story, baking cookies, or learning to ride his bike with me by his side. And each moment, each laugh, strengthens the bond between us, affirming my choice to shield him from the harsh truths he's too young to bear. One evening, as we sit on the porch watching the sun dip below the trees, he looks up at me and asks, "Are we always going to be just us, Dad?" His question catches me off guard, and I take a moment to answer. Maybe someday, there might be more people in our lives. But for now, yes, it's just us. And that's enough for me. He smiles a little sleepy and leans his head on my shoulder, and I realize it's enough for me too. It's not the life I planned, but in this quiet, simple way, it's a life worth building. One filled with honesty, love, and the strength to start over. And as I look down at him, feeling the warmth of his trust, I know that, no matter what, we'll be okay.